My whole family got a second chance at life. In our previous lives, my dad, my mom, my big brother, and my little brother all sided with the fake golden girl. But since our rebirth, things have changed. The fake golden girl asked my dad for a big house, and instead he let me live there. She wanted my nerdy little brother to tutor her, yet he only wanted to tutor me. She wanted my superstar big brother to visit her at school, but when he came, he only had eyes for me. She asked my mom for a diamond necklace she made by hand, but my mom chose to clasp it around my neck. Clara, how can you mess up your sister's room like this? It's just not right, you know? My mom scolded me, pointing to the red paint splattered on the walls and the creepy messages. Candy, the fake golden girl, sniffled. Mom, don't blame Clara. It's me who doesn't belong here. Clara, the real daughter, would always have a grudge against me, no matter how good I am to her. She probably did all this just to vent out. I'll move out today. Just pretend you never raised me. I'll come back to repay you and Dad once I've made something of myself. She looked like a tearful, weak flower, putting on a show while she went off to pack. My mom rushed to comfort her. Then I heard David, my little brother, from the living room. He sounded annoyed and indifferent. Let Clara stay at the dorm. If she can't handle it, buy her a place near school. Ever since she came back, there's been no peace at home. Finished speaking, he went off to play games in his study. My mom frowned, thought for a few minutes, then spoke tiredly yet helplessly. Clara, perhaps you should move out for a while. We own several upscale properties near your school. I'll have someone show you a nice, furnished one, and you can bring along a maid. Candy shot me a smug look, thinking she'd won. But the truth is, she's the one who vandalized her own room with red paint and scary words, just to pin it on me and get me kicked out. This drama played out almost daily in the past half year since I came back. It wasn't only at home. Her little minions at school bullied me too, and no one cared. In our past lives, I spent all my energy fighting her and trying to win my family over. It cost me dearly, and I failed my college entrance exams, which led to my downfall. Now, Reborn, I've decided I don't need my family anymore. Even if my dad is the CEO, my mom a top jewelry designer, my big brother a top star, and my little brother a prodigy, I'd rather have none of them. Seeing I stayed silent, my mom thought I was hurt and softened her tone. Go see the apartment. If you're not happy, then you can come back. I cut her off. I'll move. She was stunned, as if not expecting my decisiveness. After all, I tried so hard to fit in all this time. Even when arguing with Candy, I never mentioned wanting to leave. I ignored them completely, no more explanations. They wouldn't believe me anyway. That Candy was the one who turned her room into a horror scene. I headed to my room to pack the things I brought from the orphanage. As I packed, my dad Mike came in. Mike, a workaholic, was always flying around the world. In the last life, I could count on one hand how many times I'd seen him since I came back. I remember Mid-Autumn Festival dinner, a rare family gathering. Candy linked arms with me and sweetly called me sister, but later she pushed me into the pool, acting as if to rescue me, only to scream louder than I ever could in the water. Everyone went to save her first, almost forgetting I could have drowned that very day. I pointed her out to Mike the minute I was saved, but she cried, pretending to be wronged and pitiful, insinuating I was trying to kick her out. I thought Mike, being a CEO, would see through her act, but no. He just coldly demanded evidence from me and criticized my pettiness. He wouldn't even listen, leaving it for Mom to handle. My mom only played the peacemaker, never caring who was right or wrong. Ultimately, things were left unresolved. After that, even when Candy's minions locked me in the school bathroom, stripped off my clothes and doused me in urine, I never complained to Mike again. Mike's entrance then surprised me. I thought he might scold me after hearing Candy's side. I didn't even look at him, speedily packing my clothes, but this time Mike said nothing to blame me for. He crossed the room in quick strides and hugged me tightly. His embrace was firm, his voice pained and hoarse. I'm sorry, my daughter, I'm so sorry. He cried, trembling shoulders showing genuine emotion. Unlike his usual intimidating facade, my mom, Candy, and the housekeeper arrived, all stunned. It seemed he might have finally realized my suffering now that I was leaving and wanted to make amends. But whether he tried or not, I'd already decided never to live here again. With past sorrows as my guide, nothing could sway my resolve this time. I pulled from his hug, grabbed my packed bag, and walked out. Clara, where are you going? My dad's voice, now calmer, grabbed my arm, desperate. I'm moving.
I understand. I do.
Clara, I know how unhappy you've been here. But with me around, you'll never suffer again. My mom and Candy were about to speak, but the housekeeper cut in, defending Candy. Please check Candy's room. Clara painted her walls with red oil and bloodied words. My dad furrowed his brow. I thought he was going to scold me harshly like he did last time. My heart tightened just a bit. But instead he gently patted my head. This is Clara's home, he said. Everything here is Clara's. Who cares if a wall gets messed up? As long as she's happy, she can tear the whole place down if she wants. Me? The three others were just as stunned as I was. We couldn't believe it. Then my dad turned to look at Candy and my mom. His expression got serious, his face turning as cold as ice. Is this little thing really enough to kick Claire out? We sat there frozen, still in disbelief. I never imagined my dad would stand up for me like this. Candy's eyes instantly welled up. She started pulling the same act she did in front of my mom before. Tears streamed down her face as she whimpered, Daddy, Mom wasn't trying to kick her out. We didn't kick Claire out. She just made my wall look scary, and when Mom said not to do it again, Clara wanted to leave on her own. Mom couldn't stop her. So now they're pretending I'm mute? And keep blaming me? I couldn't take it anymore and spoke up. I don't care if you believe it or not, but I didn't put any paint or words on that wall. As soon as I said that, my dad jumped in. I believe you. His tone was like a hammer, firm and loud, stopping Candy mid-act. She just stared at him in shock. I was stunned too. My mom didn't seem convinced. Honey, you didn't see it. Clara made Candy's wall look awful. Did you not hear Clara say it wasn't her? Dad said, scolding my mom. You just assume it's Clara's fault without asking around. Is that how you treat a kid? My mom was taken aback by his stern words. Then he looked around the room and said seriously, I'll get to the bottom of who did it. Candy was panicking. She never expected Mike, who rarely dealt with household matters, to take this so seriously. She couldn't keep up her act and quietly slipped out of the room. My dad stood by his word, gathering everyone in the garden and questioning them one by one. Turns out, Candy snuck out earlier to set something up. Blame for the wall ended up on a helper named Lily. Lily was caught trying on Candy's new dress by the housekeeper, who scolded her a bit. She got mad and sabotaged Candy's wall for revenge before running off. My dad scolded my mom hard. She felt a bit guilty but not too much, as she still leaned more toward Candy's side. Candy, wiping her tears, pretended to apologize to me. I'm sorry, sister. I was so scared, and since I know you don't really like me, I believed the staff and thought it was you. My mom chimed in, Clara, your sister didn't mean it, don't hold it against her. My dad didn't hold back, Candy. Are you indirectly saying Clara can't forgive? Is that even an apology? If you're gonna say sorry, you better say it sincerely, not insult my daughter. Candy was dumbstruck. It took her a while to react, and then she wailed louder. Dad, I'm your daughter too, how can you say that? My mom hugged her sympathetically. Honey, what's gotten into you today? Can't believe you're hurting Candy like this. Candy kept her act up. I'm sorry, it's my fault for upsetting Dad. Maybe I should just move out so there's peace. My mom, of course, couldn't bear to let her go, holding her tight, about to speak. But my dad beat her to it decisively. Well then, Candy, pack up and move out now. Candy was taken aback, shocked again. Dad told Mr. Sue to pack Candy's things and have the driver take her to stay at her school dorm. Seeing Dad meant it, Candy panicked and clung to my mom. Mom, I don't want to leave you. My mom's brow creased. Honey, Candy's never lived away before. Mike sternly said, enough. You've spoiled her too much without knowing right from wrong, turning this place into a mess. Say one more word for her, and you'll join her. Once Dad was angry, Mom dared not plead anymore. Given the false accusation Candy made was now clear. She glared at Dad but comforted Candy. Go live outside for a while. I'll find you a good place, make sure you're comfortable. Candy nodded meekly, but there was a venomous look in her eye when she glanced my way. At breakfast, my plate was piled high with food, especially 5 big pork buns, my favorites. Ever since Candy found out I loved those, the cook hadn't made them for me. All the staff, once dismissive, now treated me with utmost respect. After an early morning showdown, Mike set the tone in front of everyone. That morning, the housekeeper started prepping Candy's stuff for moving out. Not just her clothes, but they were packing the best chef, 2 drivers, 2 security guards for maids, 5 luxury cars, pretty much everything to pamper Candy. Seeing this, Dad flared up, asking who authorized it. The housekeeper arrogantly claimed she raised Candy herself and didn't want her to suffer. Dad was furious. She's going to study, not to live in luxury. When did you start calling the shots around here? He confiscated everything intended for Candy and fired the housekeeper on the spot. When asking didn't work, she began crying and cursing, calling him heartless and unfeeling. In response, Dad had security escort her out. The housekeeper had been in the family for over 10 years. Dad wasted no time letting her go. With her example leading the way, all the servants quickly realized the house's dynamics had shifted. Now they're pretty much treating me with the utmost respect. Not just respectful, some suck-ups even suggested to my dad that once Candy moves to the dorms, her room should get a full makeover for me. Candy's room being the biggest, sunniest, and most comfortable one in the house because Mom always treated her like a princess, has a walk-in closet over 200 square feet. Dad liked the idea, agreed right away, and even gave the bootlicker a bonus. Seeing this, other servants also started trying to impress me. I have no clue why Mike's personality flipped so much. But if he's offering, why not take it? If he goes back to his old coffin-like self, I can cut ties and pack up without delay. Just rolling with the punches and enjoying it for now. That night, Candy stayed in her room, skipped breakfast too. As I was having breakfast, Dad joined me, asking if there's anything else I'd like to eat. I just need to say the word, and he'd have someone make it or go buy it. Satisfied with my hearty bun, I shook my head. Mom came by too, gave me a cold glance, then quietly fussed to Dad, saying he was too harsh on Candy the night before. She cried all night and her eyes were as swollen as peaches, heartbreaking. Dad put a bowl of chicken soup in front of me, telling me to have it with my bun and reminding me to eat slowly. Then he frowned at Mom, saying, "Wife, you gotta remember one thing. Clara is our real daughter, our blood. I know Candy's raised by us and you're closer to her than to Clara, and I'm not asking you to be all in for Clara, but you can't play favorites, alright? I don't care about anyone else right now. I just want to make it up to my daughter, make sure she's safe and sound for life." I looked at Mom, seeing her expression a bit strained. Quickly she recovered, defending herself, saying, "How am I playing favorites? The allowance each month is the same for all kids." She quickly changed the topic. All right, you're not going to care about Candy, but what about your own son, David? He hasn't come out since after dinner last night. Dad, a bit frustrated, said, "Aren't you his mom? Go check on David. I want to have breakfast with my daughter." After breakfast, Dad stood up, wanting to personally drive me to school. That's when Candy finally appeared, having not shown her face until then. She was lugging a suitcase herself, tears still on her pale face, looking pitiful. Mom's heart ached, rushing to her, ordering the servants to handle the suitcase, and asked what Candy wanted to eat or drink. Candy quietly said she wasn't hungry, raised her head, and tears almost rolled down again, that is, until she saw Dad pull out a black card from his wallet. Her tears instantly vanished as she bashfully smiled, saying in a sweet voice, "Daddy, my allowance is enough, but since it's your gesture, I'll accept it." "Thanks, Daddy. I'll use it well." She bashfully reached out to take the card, but Dad handed it to me instead. "Clara, you use this." Candy was stunned, then broke down, no longer sweet, and shouted, "Dad!" Dad frowned. "Didn't you say your allowance is enough? If you have enough, why need the card?" After Dad's moves, Mom was calmer than Candy but didn't agree with his decision. She said, "Honey, Clara's never used such a card, and she's still a student. Her allowance is quite enough. It's unnecessary." Dad insisted on giving me the black card. That's why she should start using it now. Clara's 17, she's got lots of things to spend on. Study materials, clothes, bags, watches, accessories. She'll need money for all that. Candy almost bled jealousy from her eyes as she stared at the card in my hands. I noticed her fists trembling, and couldn't help but feel satisfied. So I obediently took the card. Dad insisted on driving me to school himself. Candy, however, looked displeased, especially when looking at me. Her glare was murderous. As we were about to leave, Mom's panicked cries rang out from inside the villa. "David! David, what's wrong? Wake up, don't scare Mom." David had fallen into a deep sleep. Dad couldn't leave, so he had the oldest driver in the household take me. Candy took another car and left first. I asked the driver to drop me off at a designated bank. At the bank, showing the card Dad gave me, I got VIP treatment. In less than 10 minutes, I withdrew $5,000 in cash, tucking it into my backpack. Back in the car, I fished out the class contact book, found Nathan's number, and dialed him up. Nathan's the school bully, a reckless fighter, even more hardcore than the ones bullying me. So, everyone fears him except that group who still hesitates. When I first transferred and was bullied, Nathan intervened once. That group feared acting up in his presence but attacked me worse in the girls' bathroom. To avoid visible injuries, they'd pin me down, poke me with needles, kick and punch my stomach. They'd put dead rats in my backpack. Poor pig's blood on my desk, it never stopped. I appealed to family, saying I was being bullied at school, but they were busy. They couldn't imagine school bullying could be deadly. No one took it seriously. I didn't dare seek Nathan's help again after facing that group's retaliatory bullying. But in this life, I'm putting myself first. I called Nathan. Hey, it's Clara. I need you to be my bodyguard. Meet me in front of the school, and I'll pay you $1,000. Nathan's broke. He's been wearing the same school uniform so long it's falling apart. I figured I was right, and as soon as I said it, he agreed. Then I asked, if it's a girl, would you hit her? Would you even go into the girls' restroom? Nathan chuckled on the other end, sounding all casual. If the boss says hit, I'll hit. If the boss says go in, I'll go in. At school, that group was already waiting at the main entrance. In my last life, I was so insecure. I kept my bangs long, hiding half my face, walking with my head down and back hunched. This time, I tied my hair up in a high ponytail, showing my entire face. I walked in straight as a board. When they saw me, they gave these malicious smiles, trailing me from a couple of meters away. From a distance, I spotted a tall, lean figure coming briskly from a building. My nervous heart calmed and I stood even taller. As I passed the restroom area, the leader, a big brute, grabbed my shoulder. They blocked others' view, shoved me towards the girls' restroom. A few girls who were inside looked freaked, picking up their pants and running. Clearly, these people were sent by Candy because they immediately demanded my black card. I kept quiet. They snatched my backpack, pushing my head as if they wanted to dunk me in the toilet. That's when Nathan came in. He was like a whirlwind, sweeping in with long strides, taking down several bullies at once. Then he grabbed the leader and started beating her senseless. He beat her until she was bleeding from her nose and mouth, then shook off his fist. Anyone who touches a hair on Clara's head, I'll kill you. I'm diagnosed as insane. Even the cops can't stop me. Scram. The rest saw the leader's state, turned pale and ran off like scared dogs, dragging her away. I was stunned. A bitter feeling rose inside. Turns out they're all cowards, only picking on the weak. Turns out it only took $1,000 to stop the storm of bullying. I get a few thousand as pocket money each month. Yet in my last life I was so scared, so timid, I never thought of fighting back. In the class, Nathan, who I'd paid, moved my desk to the back beside his. Candy watched from the middle row, seething loudly even from a distance. Looking at Nathan napping gave me a sense of security I'd never felt. I've got $50,000 in cash, enough to hire him for quite some time. I flunked the English test, and the teacher didn't look too pleased. After class, a girl from the corner of the room approached, head down. Her eyes were timid and she stammered, "Clara, can I help you with English? See, can I go to the restroom with you?" I recognized her as Lucy, good at English and literature. But she was another victim of that group. I glanced at Nathan still sleeping beside me, paused and agreed. 1-2, what difference does it make? I could always pay Nathan more, consider it paying for an English tutor. However, I didn't expect that by day's end, I wouldn't need to pay Nathan for protection anymore. After morning classes, on the way to the cafeteria, a group of tearful adults blocked me. They apologized and pleaded with me. When I stayed silent, 2 even knelt. "Clara, it's my fault, I promise she'll be punished, please have mercy. She's in her senior year. If she ends up in juvenile hall, her life's over. Yes, Clara, please. Tell your dad to go easy on her, I'll do anything." Soon, a sharp-dressed man approached me, politely explaining everything. Turns out the driver who brought me to school heard my call, recorded those bullies, and informed my dad. Dad, too worried about David still in a coma, immediately sent people to handle it. This guy was Dad's assistant, brought on my dad's orders along with the top attorney ready to fight those bullies. The kneeling parents were the bullies. In the principal's office I saw them again. They were beaten up, sobbing on the floor by their parents. With the assistant and lawyer handling things, I didn't need to care. I ignored those parents begging me. The assistant's phone rang. He handed it to me. It was Dad. He was sobbing so hard, his voice unrecognizable. Dad. Dad's ashamed, sorry Clara, I'm no good. He cried till he was voiceless, then rasped. I dreamt you regretted coming home, tried so hard to fit in, but we kept pushing you out till you gave up, walked a path of despair. Julia woke up determined to make it right, to love you, spoil you. But never imagined you, my daughter, after 17 years of hardship, came to this so-called elite school to suffer. Like hell on earth. Even though you were getting skinnier by the day, we were all wrapped up in work and didn't even notice. What should I do? How can I ease my daughter's pain? I know damn well I can't. Even if I could die 1,000 deaths, it wouldn't help at all. Don't forgive your dad. Not in this lifetime. Never forgive. Here's the chairman of a big corporation, crying his eyes out uncontrollably. I held my phone tightly, speechless for a long time. Late affection and family is worth less than grass. He wants to give me money, I'll take it. Cover my education? Sure, I'll take it. Want to give me a house and a car? I'll take that too. But anything else, forget it. Those jerks have totally disappeared from school. After a while, my dad's assistant came to tell me. My dad was dealing with the parents of those who bullied me. He was going to make sure they were done for. Without their parents backing them up, they'll never rise again. I have no idea what Candy promised them, or what favors she handed out. But no one ever ratted Candy out as the mastermind. After my dad funded some new school buildings, the principal and teachers started being super polite to me. Rumors spread everywhere about my strong background and wealthy family. Not just in my class, even students from neighboring classes wanted to befriend me and Lucy. But after a few days they'd stop hanging out with us. Lucy found out someone was paying them off to stay away from us. I knew right away it was Candy. Since I suddenly became popular, Candy went overboard making friends by spending money at school. Handing out red envelopes, giving jewelry and bags, treating people to bubble tea and snacks. Like she was Santa Claus or something. David was out cold for 3 days after that incident. When he woke up, something seemed off. This school-famous genius, who skipped from freshman to junior year, insisted on repeating his sophomore year. And he didn't pick the advanced class but ours, the one with Candy. The news had our homeroom teacher and main subject teacher smiling from ear to ear, walking on air. Candy was even more thrilled, almost wanted to shout the news over a loudspeaker. Before David even arrived, everyone already knew Candy had a genius brother. Actually, Mike had always taught his kids to keep a low profile. Never reveal family ties to outsiders, to avoid any trouble or danger. Clearly, Candy forgot that lesson. Being David's sister made her more popular than ever, even more than being Santa Candy. Some wanted to befriend her for tutoring from David. Others wanted to soak up his genius vibes. And a lot just dreamed of being his future sister-in-law. Because David wasn't just a genius, he was drop-dead handsome too. The school's forum threads about his rivalry with Nathan, the other school hottie, were always buzzing. On the day David transferred to our class, girls scrambled to swap seats to sit near Candy, leaving one beside her for David. Candy's desk was stuffed with colorful love letters and gifts. I've heard Nathan also got some when he first showed up. But he tossed them in the trash without mercy, and after seeing him fight, no one dared give him any more. Forget gifts or love letters, folks even walked around him scared. The moment we heard footsteps outside the classroom door, the girls around Candy got all hyped. OMG, he's coming, he's here. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to be classmates with a super genius, so proud. Candy, does he like white? I wore a white dress today. Even got in trouble for not wearing the uniform, and had to stand for an hour. He has to notice me. Remember, I promised to do your chores for a week. When your brother comes over, give him this chocolate for me, will ya? Will the genius be all cold and aloof? He doesn't seem to talk much at school. Candy smiled with an air of pride. David's just quiet around strangers. With me he chatters non-stop. He's been clingy since he was little. He'll be around me all the time in class, don't laugh. Did he transfer here just for you? You guys really are close, so envious. Lucy leaned in and whispered, Clara, you think David's really Candy's brother? They have the same last name, but we've never heard about this before. And you share the same last name as Mr. Genius. I was busy jotting down English vocabulary, replied, doesn't concern us, don't mind it. But the genius is so handsome. Clara, do you fancy guys like the genius? Even Nathan, who always zonked out the moment he stepped into class, cracked his sleepy eyes open and glanced at me. I promptly shook my head. Lucy just went, oh. Nathan closed his eyes again, back to his nap. David walked in with the homeroom teacher. The class went unprecedented silent. The teacher enthusiastically introduced David and told him to just pick any seat, or if he wanted, they'd make room. I looked up and locked eyes with David. He was just staring at me. I was a bit stunned. Maybe it was because he'd been in a coma for a few days, but David seemed to have lost a lot of weight. He was looking straight at me, his eyes all red like he had been crying. He had that look like he was trying hard not to cry again. A girl stood up to introduce herself to David. With her leading, a bunch of other girls and boys got up, trying to become friends with him. David didn't look at anyone, his dark eyes stayed glued on me. The homeroom teacher nudged him to speak, and he finally said, I came to this class for one person. I want to protect her, study with her, and go to college with her. That person is my sister. The classroom erupted with shrill screams. The girls around Candy were excitedly hitting the desks. Candy. The top student said, he's here just for you. Ah, how sweet. Candy looked a bit smug, but she tried to hide it, covering her mouth with a laugh. This guy, seriously, I told him not to make it a big deal. How annoying. Sure enough, David stretched his long legs and walked right over to Candy's seat. The girls' shrieking got even crazier. He stopped by Candy's seat. Candy got up, pretending to be graceful, and playfully grumbled. You little brat, what are you doing? Who needs your protection? Who wants your company? You're ditching a good senior class to be here. Let's see what mom and dad say about that. Even though she sounded all playful, she was speaking loudly enough for the whole class to hear. But David ignored her, reaching to move the empty desk beside her and grabbed a chair. He was so tall he just hoisted the desk onto his shoulder and carried the chair with his other hand, heading toward my seat. The screaming girls went silent like someone just hit pause. Other than David's footsteps, the classroom went dead silent. Candy stood there among the seated students like a statue. But a live one, 'cause her face was changing colors like a rainbow, impressive to see. David placed the desk in the aisle next to mine, and nudged my dozing deskmate. Hey, can we switch spots? Mind moving your desk back a bit? Claire's my sister. Everyone else? The shock was so intense you'd think some people's eyes were gonna pop out. Nathan was waking up, looking at me instead of David. I told David, no, I'm not your sister, and I'm not sharing a desk with you. If you have to sit here, then I'll move seats. David's eyes went even redder, sis. Didn't she just say you weren't her brother? Nathan chimed in for me, his expression tough, looking like he was ready to fight. The teacher, not wanting to upset anyone, kept quiet. David kept looking at me with red eyes, while I stayed with a cold expression, not even glancing at him. After standing there for a while, he quietly moved his desk behind mine and sat down. The homeroom teacher, a math teacher, started class. When the teacher gave out homework, I frowned, chewing on my pen because there were a few problems I couldn't get. Then a piece of paper got tossed my way. Unfolding it skeptically, I found neatly written solutions on graph paper. My heart skipped a beat. David's weird behavior was starting to remind me of something my dad had done recently. Could it be that David also dreamed about my tragic past life death? When class ended, some girls tried to ask Candy what was going on, but she ignored them, lying on her desk sobbing loudly. Everyone exchanged looks. Checking out Candy, David, and me, each wore a complicated expression. A shadow loomed over my desk. David. He had an armful of books, blushing a little as he placed them on my desk. Sis, check out these reference books. If you don't get something, ask me, I'll explain. Without waiting, he returned to his seat. I couldn't figure out what he was thinking. Remembering how distant he'd been before, I handed the books back. Other girls ran to him with books, blushing as they asked questions, but he refused, saying he had no time. Since Candy refused to mention being his sister, some bolder ones couldn't help asking David outright, David, is Candy your sister? He simply replied, fake. After a moment he added, I only have one real sister, and that's Clara. Nearby, Candy started to cry again. Ignoring her tears, David pulled a chair to my spot, flipping a reference book open. Sis, maybe your old school's pace was a bit behind ours, so this stuff seems hard. It's alright, I'll explain it to you. No thanks, I replied coldly. David stayed persistent. After I refused, he just carried on solving problems by himself, like a sermon at my side. Gotta admit, with his explanation, even the toughest questions turned as simple as basic arithmetic. Next to me, Nathan slammed a book on the desk, irritated, interrupting David. Aren't you annoying? Clara said she doesn't need your help. Don't you understand? David looked at him without fear. Even if my sister thinks it's annoying, I'll still help her.